Welcome back. Now, despite a scathing report into the Banking Royal Commission, more allegations of banks behaving badly have been exposed. The latest is Westpac, accused of 23 million breaches of Australia's anti-money laundering laws. Well, now the author of a new book, Breaking the Banks, says it's time the culture of arrogance stopped and that the big four banks should be broken up. And I'm pleased to say that author, Joseph Healy, joins us now. Joseph, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, you're a senior executive, a former senior executive at the NAB and also the ANZ, so you know the ins and outs of these financial institutions. How did we get to this point in Australia?
Well, I think over the course of the last 10 to 15 years, the industry changed in quite a dramatic way. Part of it was culture, but progressively it started focusing on shareholder value, and it lost sight of its customers, and it lost sight of the reason or the purpose why banks were established.
So when you say part of the reason is a cultural problem, what do you mean?
Well, I think the culture is one of arrogance. It's one of treating the customers as a second-order consideration. It's one of putting profit before people and purpose. And we all know this. It's been well documented. But this has created such a big lack of trust in the way the banks conduct themselves. And I think that lack of trust is something that has to be addressed.
Do you think this is something that's just been sort of accepted within the banking culture? I mean, as we say, you're a former exec. You know how these financial institutions work. Has it just been accepted that it's profit at any cost?
Well, I think, unfortunately, that has become the deeply held belief. I mean, in many ways, the cultural concrete over the course of the last 10 years has set, and changing that culture is very, very difficult. If nothing is done to force that change.
So we've heard during the Royal Commission about the systematic culture of profit at any cost. Why haven't these financial institutions been pulled into line by the regulators?
Well, I think it's a question of regulators. I also think it's a question of government. I think the industry that we have, which is dominated by four big banks that put profit ahead of all other things, won't change unless there's some intervention. Regulation is one aspect, but government or public policy is another aspect. But left unto their own devices, nothing will change. So
as a former banking insider, do you think the banks are going to take stock? And will there be a change from within these financial institutions following the recommendations from the Royal Commission?
I think there'll be a change in some aspects of behaviour and conduct, but no fundamental change. I think it will revert back to the way that it has always been.
Why?
Well, because I think it's deeply rooted. I think it's deeply rooted. There's a lack of competition. There's a sense that shareholders matter more than anything else. And that doesn't change off its own. As I say, the cultural concrete has deeply set, and it won't change unless there are outside forces and greater competition that will force that change.
Well, speaking of that, you argue in your book that it's time the big four banks were broken up. I think we have to point out, though, you are also setting up your own smaller bank. Why do you think the big four should be broken up?
Well, I think the big four have become too powerful. I mean, people have little choice. There's a degree of arrogance that we just mentioned in dealing with customers, and we need greater competition. And with greater competition, we have more innovation and greater customer choice. And that won't happen unless there's some external forces like government policy. So it's only through breaking the banks up that we will start to restore the trust that we essentially need in what are such important institutions.
All right, let's talk about the customers for a moment. So what about people that are struggling with their financial institution? Do you have any tips for them when it comes to dealing with their bank and also changing banks if they want to?
Well, I think one of the most important developments that we'll see early in the new year is the open banking regime, which allows people to use data that is their data held by a bank, and you pass that data to other institutions. So I think we'll see more choice emerging, and there are new players coming into the bank, into the market, so-called neobanks. My tip for people is to look around, to get advice. There will be more options opening up in the years ahead, which is good. So I think don't take for granted what you've been offered by the banks. Look around for alternatives and seek some advice.
Really great advice, Joseph Healy. Lovely to chat to you.
It's my great pleasure.
All right, it's 8 o'clock. It's news time.
Thank you, Lara.